Thanks for watching our documentary, Back in the Water. My name's Nick Evanson. I'm the director of the documentary here with Jake Markham. Jake, thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me a little bit, I know your family and I know your dad's, passion for sharing health information, but why was making the documentary important to you?
So what was important to me was when I was originally diagnosed, I knew nothing about TOS. Absolutely nothing. I read about the literature behind it and the diagnosis and the procedure that could happen, but I never once read about the recovery process.
Yeah. So you were totally uneducated until you were experiencing it.
I knew nothing.
Wow.
I had no idea if I would be able to swim, what my daily function of life would be, how I would be able to work out in the future. I had no idea how I'd be able to do any of those things. And so for me, sharing my story is a way to show that the people out there that who are going through this, that there's people who have gone through it also and have had success stories and have come back even better than they were before being diagnosed with TOS and going through this.
Yeah. So here's a question for you. There's been a number of athletes in the professional realm who have experienced this. Can you just name a few?
Yeah, so I've read about Markelle Fultz, an NBA player, Matt Harvey, he's a pitcher for the Mets, I believe, and then Trevor Rosenthal, who's also a pitcher for the Oakland Athletics. Those are just a few of the high-level names that I've seen experience this. But once again, there was nothing really about the recovery process.
So in their reporting, you knew that they had experienced it, but you couldn't find additional information about what to do. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. It's awesome for you that you found some good resources and then that your parents were able to help, find some good care for you. And that's really why you want to share this with other people.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's my way to give back to the community and help other people out who are going through this, because I don't want other people to go through what I went through, having no resources of knowledge about what they're going through and how the recovery process happens and if they'll ever be the same again. So.
Yeah, that could be a pretty scary place to be in. Let's talk about what's happened since. We finished the documentary ending with Olympic trials. Just tell me a couple words about that experience. How was it going to the Olympic trials?
Yeah, that was a really cool experience. So the year prior to that, I transferred to the University of Alabama. It's where I compete currently. And so I trained with them for a year and was able to go to Olympic trials. And it was just a surreal experience being able to be there and compete with high-level athletes who I've always looked up to in a sense. And, it was really cool to be able to race in that pool and, compete at the highest level.
Yeah. Did you ever see yourself making it to that level?
Not really, honestly. It was always a dream of mine to be able to go to Olympic trials. But never really, I honestly never saw myself being able to swim in college. It wasn't until later into high school that I saw that I had the possibility of doing that, and pushing myself further to qualify for Olympic trials was another dream, and it was an incredible experience to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's remarkable to me to see you have such success after having Thoracic Outlet. And we know everybody's stories are going to vary. Not all outcomes will be the same, but it's an incredible symbol of hope, and it's an awesome story. So super glad to hear that you got to do that. What is in your future regarding swimming? You're still in college. You've got one more year to go currently, and you're still swimming.
Yeah, I'm going into my senior year, and I'll be competing for my third year for the University of Alabama. And after that, I'm not really sure what the future holds in store. I don't think that swimming will be a professional career I pursue, but I definitely will pick up something else to keep myself in shape down the road. But yeah, I'm excited to enter my senior year at Alabama and compete for them. It's been an honor to represent them and a dream come true.
So, what does your daily maintenance look like as far as your arm and the threat of having another issue with thoracic outlet? What are you doing to prevent that?
Yeah, so my daily routine of going to practice, we have a 2-hour practice every single afternoon, and then 2 to 3 times we have a 2-hour practice in the morning. Before each of those practices, I'll go in anywhere from an hour to 35 minutes beforehand, and I'll go into the training room, and we have my athletic training staff and I have come up with an arm care plan to sorts. And so what I do is I'll heat my shoulder, arm, thoracic cavity area with a device we call a Venom. And it brings heat to the shoulder area.
Is it like some kind of a wrap that goes around the
Yeah,
whole?
so it wraps around my arm here and then wraps around my body there. And there's like a little knob right here that you can like adjust the heat on it, and it vibrates also to activate those muscles around that area. And so you can adjust like how you want the vibrations and at what speed. So I do that for about 10 to 20 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes if I'm there earlier and I know that there's a possibility of an issue coming along, because I can pick up on that throughout the day and say, okay, I woke up like this, I feel a little discomfort, I need to go in and do extra today to make sure that I don't have an issue in practice so I can train at a high level and be able to make it through the whole practice.
So I'm going to interrupt here. Can you describe what kind of discomfort do you feel? Can you describe that to us a little bit? What does it feel like?
So the discomfort that I usually have is sometimes some heaviness, some tightness in my arm. If that comes up, then that's feeling wise. I know, okay, I need to go in a little bit earlier and need to make sure I do extra so that I can compete at a high level and train at a high level that day in practice. That I'll be able to complete the practice and not have any issues. Now, from another standpoint is sometimes I can wake up in the morning and I see that my vein in this area is popping and it's like bulging out. And when it's doing that, odds are for me, there's a pretty good chance that if I don't do a lot to take care of that area and loosen up that area, that there's going to be an issue during the practice when I start going really hard. So when I pick up on those cues and listen to my body really well, I can say, okay, I need to go in and do a little bit extra. So along with doing the Venom and the heat, my athletic trainer will perform what we call a pec release. And so they'll move their hands around in this area, moving my arm in a different variety of motions, and that will loosen up that area. Usually that is good enough for me. But on days where I know I need to do extra, I'll lay on the ground with a little crossball in this area to help loosen it up even more and kind of move my arm around in different motions, loosening up that area. And then I'll lay on a training bed with a foam roller in between my shoulder blades, and I'll have my arms back here and just try to push them back as far as I can. And doing that opens up the thoracic cavity for me, and it helps to prevent from issues happening in practice.
Yeah. So it sounds like this plan that you have, it's helping warm up the area, helping increase blood flow as much as possible. Is
Yes.
that kind of the plan?
Yeah, loosen up the area so that nothing decreases my blood flow during practice.
So that's a great description of your daily maintenance that you do to prevent before you practice. But how about when you're racing and giving a really hard effort? What do you do afterwards?
Yeah, so on race days, my activation and what I do before each race or before the session start is the same as what I do before practice. But after races is what I do I think is most important, because I have to be able to compete the next day or in 20 minutes from now in the next race. So after races and after I've warmed down, my athletic trainer will perform a massage on my arm where they raise it up above my head and they'll like use some cocoa butter and kind of massage the blood flow out of my arm, and it helps loosen it up for me because usually after races, more so than practice, it gets tight and it gets heavy and I know I need to do something about it. Otherwise, I won't be able to compete at the same level for my next race if it's that night or it's the next day or if it's 20 minutes from now. So they perform a massage on my arm, getting the blood flow, draining the blood flow out, flushing it out. And that helps me be ready to go for the next race. It helps me recover as quickly as possible. And sometimes we'll put some compression on it. So we'll put an ACE wrapper on it, and that helps compress the blood out and get the lactic acid out of my arm and helps me feel fresh for when I need to compete again.
So you've got a great prevention and recovery program here. Where did that come from? Did you find that in a book somewhere, or is that something that was developed with the people that you worked with?
So the ACE wrap, it came from working with Coach Bass. We kind of did trial and error in high school right after I was diagnosed and went through the surgeries, and we just did trial and error on everything. And so I found some things that worked for me with the recovery process, but it was really the activation process that I didn't start working on until I got to Alabama. And when I got to Alabama, there were days where I had a couple issues happen right away, and I was like, okay, I don't want these to be happening all the time. Like, I'm used to having them happen from back in high school and when I was at Indiana. And so my athletic trainer and I, we sat down and we were like, okay, what's causing these flare-ups? We looked at what I was doing in practice. We looked at what I was doing in the weight room. And we kind of came to the consensus that there was some exercise I was doing. I'm pretty sure it was in the weight room that was tightening up that area. And we needed that area to be loose for me to be able to train at the high level. But we couldn't exactly say, you can't do this exercise anymore because it was a part of my strength training and it's gonna help me get better in the water also. So we found a way to balance that. So where I would go in and we did trial and error again, and we found that doing the pec release, heating the arm and the shoulder area, doing those extra steps like the low cross ball, and then working with the foam roller has all helped me. When I do those things, it's very rare that I have an issue pop up. It happens once every 2 months or so, but it's very rare, and it reduces it so much that I don't have to go into practice thinking, oh man, I'm gonna have an issue come up. I'm able to go into practice saying, I did what I needed to do. Let's not think about it and let's just focus on what I'm doing in the workout. And it helps me mentally be able to train at a high level, and it helps me physically also not really have issues. So.
Tell me about your future and what you expect regarding Thoracic Outlet. I mean, is this going to be something that you think you're going to have to carefully watch for the rest of your life, or do you think it won't be as much of an issue later, perhaps if you're not swimming?
Yeah. It's definitely going to be something that I have to watch down the road, just because it's a part of my body and it's something that I use on a daily basis. I won't be using it in such extreme manners as I do in practice every day. So it's something I'll have to watch and manage, but I don't necessarily think that it's going to affect me down the road, because during my life right now, I don't have issues with it when I'm not swimming. So I don't think my quality of life will be impaired from it, but it is something that will always be with me. So it's something I need to make sure I don't lax off of the things that I'm doing to make sure that I'm okay.
Tell us about the community that you're hoping to build through the website.
Yeah, so actually, since my diagnosis, I've had a couple friends be diagnosed with TOS, and the idea behind the website is to build a community of people who can come to that website, and if they're going through it or they have somebody who is going through it and they need ways to help people. If you're going through it, I want it to be a resource where you can go and see people's stories. I want to build an area of the website which is just dedicated to testimonials, where you have testimonials, whether they're written or they're recorded, where you can see that people have gone through this, what's worked for them, what's not worked for them, things that were important through the whole process. I know like things that I've heard a lot are support system, being able to listen to your body, know what's going on, because I didn't really know what was going on. So I want this to be a place where people can come and find information, find testimonials from people who have gone through it, and to give people hope that, you know, just because you're diagnosed with TOS, just because you're going through this or you know somebody else is going through this, that the world doesn't end and your life doesn't end, and that you can still be the person you were before while going through it, and afterwards you can still come back better. And so I want it to be, in a way, a beacon of hope for people, to come and find some hope that, you know, I'm going through this and I can see that there are other people who have gone through it, who have been successful in their recovery and the different surgical procedures that they went through. So yeah, I want it to be a community where people can come to and find hope.
Yeah. So you recently spoke with an expert on this condition of thoracic outlet syndrome, named Dr. Scott Worden, and he reached out to us, found us through the website, watched the documentary, heard your story, reached out to you because he wanted to hear more. Just tell me a little bit, what did you learn about Dr. Worden's experience, and what was that discussion like?
So we had a discussion a couple weeks ago, and it was fantastic. You know, I learned that he isn't really affected by TOS, but he's somebody who's fascinated by it and wants to bring help to the community because there's such little literature out there. So he's one of the leading experts in the world on thoracic outlet syndrome, and being able to work with him has been a great experience. He's very knowledgeable in the diagnosis process and helping people out who are going through this, because there's a lot more that goes with having thoracic outlet syndrome than just the physical side effects. You know, we talked about the mental side effects and what people go through, and how a lot of times a lot of people feel alone and are looking for someone to be there for you and somebody where they can find hope. And so I wish I would have known about Dr. Worden and his work that he's going through, being able to collaborate. We have that discussion, and it is available on helpforthoracikoutlet.org. So if you want to go and learn more about what we talked about, feel free to go, and it'll be up on the website.
Jake, thank you for sharing your story. It's inspiring to me to watch you grow as a swimmer and as a person going through this. I've seen the growth, and it's inspiring. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and thank you all for watching the documentary. If you've been inspired by this, please share it with someone that you know may benefit from it. Also, you can reach out at helpforthoracikoutlet.org and stay connected with us there. Share your stories, get your friends to share their stories there, and we look forward to hearing from you.